Good morning. My name is Teut Weidemann. I'm here to talk about the damned App Store because we all know how difficult it is, and I want to share you some of the lessons from my clients. But first, let me short introduce you who don't know me, and I guess in Asia most people don't know me. I'm doing games since 30 years. That's since 1987. That's ages ago. I shipped over 100 titles. Actually, half of them I already forgot. That's how long ago it was. And I have done nearly every job you can imagine in this industry. I was a programmer for 10 years, I was an artist, game designer, producer, I ran my own development company for over 10 years. I was CEO of a public listed company for a couple of years, and since 8 years I'm independent consultant, freelance, consulting people about the online game space. Since a couple of years, of course, about free-to-play. I'm one of the available monetization experts in Europe, and my client list is pretty large right now and is growing ever since. Some clients I'm not allowed to mention, but you know that's the usual job as a freelance consultant. So some of them you might recognize, some of them you might not. I can make a test, right? Who knows Supercell? Okay, that's, yeah. You know that Supercell is for sale? If you have like 5-6 billion, you can actually buy them. Good luck. Who knows cyber games? See, that's an amazing thing, right? There are many companies really successful in the App Store and you don't know them. That's a really typical attribute of a lot of companies inside the App Store. Cyber Games has the game which has the most downloads ever in both the iOS and the Android App Store. You still don't know them? Well, you can Google them so you know who they are. 1.2 billion downloads, that's pretty cool. Some of the games I worked upon in the recent years, some of them you might recognize, some of them you don't. The recent iOS release we did, and Android is coming soon, is Assassin's Creed Identity. I consulted Ubisoft on that one. Ubisoft was for a couple of years my largest client, but that's changing well. So let's go to the topic, right? Everybody of you who's publishing iOS or Android apps or games is complaining usually about the same things. No one is downloading my game, user acquisition is too expensive, the conversion rate is so low, no one is paying me for my game I did, there's no visibility, no, how should I like market my game? But here's the thing, most of the mistakes you did with your app, you did at the very beginning. And these mistakes, which are common through nearly all my clients, I want to educate you about a little bit, but first I have to get some key facts straight because there are there's a lot of wrong information in the internet about the App Store, a lot of them. And I just want to tell you some of them so that you take the information you read in the internet with a grain of salt. So first thing, we have, I don't know the exact number, but far beyond 3 billion smart devices out there. You know, all the tablets, all the phones, if you add them together, it's more than 3 billion. And research has shown that nearly 60% play games on these devices. So that's a market of 1.8 billion players out there. Everybody was excited about this news, right? Hey, 1.8 billion players, we never had that many people playing games which we could market to. You know, the largest market we had was, in terms of revenue, was console space. But if you look how many consoles they sold in total per generation, it's maybe 200 million, 240 million. That's tiny compared to 1.8 billion people, right? So the reach is much larger. So, you know, there are lots of opportunities there. But there's also a couple of problems. And the main problem, and I'm going to go into detail a little bit in a couple of slides, is that if we had the PCs, 300 million and 200 something million consoles, and all these people are playing games, where did all the other 1.x billion people learn to play games? The fact is they don't. Most of these people are new to games, and this has a severe consequence about how you should actually design your game. So the average age is older than you think. Most people think, hey, you know, you see the 17-year-old in the bus playing a game, you see your kids playing the games, and you think really like this is like the core audience you have, but this is actually wrong. Worldwide, the average age is 31, meaning that you target an adult gamer, an adult who is new to games most of the time, and if you go mid-core or core, you know, he's still older than you think. And that has a consequence by itself on your game design. And if you don't know that, you know, I'm going to into detail in a couple of slides so that you know this. The major point taken here, if these people are new to games, they don't know how the game speaks to them. You know, most of us in the game industry are very experienced with games. So if you show me a game for 5 minutes, I've seen so many games, I can tell you how the game goes on in terms of game mechanics for the next 2 hours. Because there are certain laws and rules we follow. But these people don't know these laws and rules. You know, they don't know what they should do if there's a kind of small little figure in the center of the screen and there's a dot blinking. They have no idea. Should I touch it? Should I walk over it? Should I eat it? Should I shoot it? You know, they don't know. So the game is easy as it is. That's the reason why King is so successful. Because their games are stupid simple. Very simple. That doesn't mean that your game has to be stupid simple. Don't make that misconception. You know, if you make a really stupid simple game, good luck being successful, because 99% of these games are not successful. All the really cool stupid simple games coming up, which are very successful, you know, is like 1 out of 10,000. It's very hard to do. So you can use complex game mechanics, but you have to teach the user actually how to use them in a proper way. And that doesn't mean a click tutorial. Click tutorials are evil. Don't do these. So here's another really interesting data I found. Here you see the gender split of mobile players, which is nearly half and half, a little bit more to the female side, while the old industry, like console and PC, actually tends to be more on the male side. And it has to be with the type of genres we sell most of the time. On consoles, the best-selling genre is first-person shooters. First-person shooters are 80–90% male. And that's the reason why console space is male-driven, a lot of PC space is male-driven. But smartphones is nearly 50-50 split. Of course, because the human race is actually 50-50 split between male and female. You know, it's like 51-49, but that's just details. So if we know that, we have to make games, if you do free-to-play, to increase the reach as big as possible, right? And that means that you have to address a male and female audience. Just that is very difficult. Believe me, we tried. You know, if you make a game for male, it's much easier. If you make a game just for females, it's much easier. There are two different play styles. There are a couple of genres which is attractive to both male and females, but they're not there yet on mobile, if you exclude China. So, let's repeat that, okay? Most of these users do not know the game language or how the mechanics speak to them. And you have to teach and educate these people to do that. And this includes the graphics. When we see the graphics and we take a look at games, we like dark games, for example. On consoles and on PC, we like dark games because they're like scary and you know, dungeons, and there might be a monster around the corner. This is core games and graphics. On mobile, they don't work because most of these people don't have that game education, which actually finally leads at some point to that scary dark graphics. So if you do a dark game and a dungeon game, you know, you will fail just by choosing that genre. Because most of these people don't know what they're looking at. If you look at the App Store and they, let's say, have 2 or 3 games on screen with the screenshots, and your screenshots are dark because you have a dark dungeon game, they think your game is broken. You can test it, you know, with your audience. They just don't see what they on this dark image. They don't even know who the hero is, who they play. That's one of the reasons why most of these games, in order to increase the reach to the maximum, is featuring bright graphics. Sorry for that. The other thing is that games tend to use an abstract graphical language in terms of how characters look like. And on mobile, it seems that everybody's using cute graphics and cute characters. And the reason is because cute characters are so easy to communicate to a wide audience. You know, it's Disney style, it's Pixar style, it's like, you know, the baby style, you know, bigger heads, large eyes and all that. In Asia, that's very common among, you know, because manga anime in Japan is very big. The fantasy stuff from China and South Korea, you know, actually features that by itself. But in Europe, you have to actually educate people about that style because they think it's all kiddie stuff. So there's a big difference between Asia, Europe, and the US in terms of cute graphics. But still, people are using it because it's easier to get across, not only the technology reason, but just to increase reach. But there are some dangers using this, and I'm going into that detail in a second. The other thing, because these people are new to games, is that we don't use full 3D yet. I don't mean the technology. Many games use full 3D. I mean full 3D controls. Full 3D controls are natural and normal on any console and PC game, but on mobile it's not there yet because people have no idea how to control something in 3D space. They don't even know how to look at a 3D moving image and see who's the hero, who's the enemy. They don't know that just from, they haven't learned that yet. And the step from 2D navigation to 3D navigation is a very, very big leap. That won't happen, at least not this year, might be not next year, but maybe the year thereafter. So it's really tough. So it's not here yet, but it might be soon. And our goal is, of course, to maximize reach. And there's a lot of other things on top of us which we have to follow, right? So here you have a kind of complex slide. So general guidelines when you do mobile games is that successful games are interruptible at any time. What that means is that most people enjoy their game where? In the bus, in the train, metro? No, they don't. They actually play at home. And when they're playing at home, they're actually sitting, let's say we have a man playing his favorite game. He's actually sitting on the couch beside his wife, and his wife is watching TV, her favorite TV series, while he's playing the game. So the wife kicks him, says, look at her. She cheated her husband, in the favorite drama series. And he's kind of looking up. Oh no, that's not nice. And looking back at his game. So it's interruptible, and he didn't lose that game yet. So that's the reason why the games are designed to be interruptible at any point. And that's a really important thing. If you look at the top 10, 20 charts, they're interruptible at any point. So you have to remember that. That means that they're not action games. Most action games fail in the App Store because they don't have that interruptibility, right? If you do an action game, you actually have to do very short session lengths, but that's a different detail. But nevertheless, non-action means slow. Even Clash Royale is slow. If you really look at it, you do one move every couple of seconds. That's really slow. It's not really an action game. And here's the thing, technology-wise, it has to work with a casual internet connection. The casual internet connection is something really weird because your game has to be online in order to be monetizable. You have to be an online game. But on the other hand, you have to allow certain interruptions in the internet at some point. It's like if you're playing in the metro, you only have internet when the train stops. So when the train stops, you can actually send your move, and if the train drives, you can actually make your move, but you cannot send it. So this is what we talk about, a casual internet connection. And here's a new thing, flexible session length. That's a detail which is something, you can learn the wrong thing in the internet. Most people tell you and teach you that session length, that's how long a player actually plays a game, has to be less than 3 minutes. So they enter the game, play something for 3 minutes, have to have a reward and a really good feeling, and then they end the game. This is no longer the case. This is really old information, 4 or 5 years old. Today, you have to make a game which supports flexible session length. The player can pick his session length. So if he wants to just have a short burst of 1 or 2 minutes playing your game, you should allow that, and he should be happy. If the player wants to play your game for 2 or 3 hours straight, you should allow that. And in fact, most games do that today. If you deduct the old games, like whatever you find in the App Store, but just compare the Clash of Clans type of gameplay, short bursts like 5 minutes, multiple times per day. Compare that to Clash Royale, which you can play for like 3 hours straight, and compare that to a game called Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars is like an MMORPG. You can play that for 12 hours straight and still having fun. So that's something which is really important today, that you have flexible session lengths, because there are certain types of users coming to your game, who want to enjoy your game in different pacings. And of course, you have to have a meta game, a progression system. You have to do diversity in game modes. So you have to have PvP, you have to have PvE. If you don't know what that is, please Google that. You have to have campaign modes, short burst mode, leaderboard type of stuff, and so on. And co-op, multiplayer, all that kind of stuff. You have to to have it in there. And not only one, you have to, if possible, have multiple ones to address as many players as possible. You see here the types of mobile games played most often. That's an interesting thing. This is basically a Western thing here. This is a graph coming from the Western audience, mainly US. In Asia, actually, that's quite different. And about that, there's also info if you want to check that out. But nevertheless, you see that in the US, casual and social games are really big due to the fact that Candy Crush and the social casino games are really big. But on the other hand, if you see that puzzle board games are down there, and there's like action, sports, strategy, and role-playing all rolled into one, That's like really weird, because just that is just action is the biggest one on console. That's where you see that the App Store is very different. But also this chart is misleading, right? Because this chart is actually a statistic about the most successful apps in the App Store. So if you have really good going casual games and social casino games, of course, they are playing most often. If people ship a lot of really good action strategy games, of course, this is the one people play most often. But this is what people play most often. If you switch that graph to which makes most revenue, you will see that the action sports strategy role-playing thing is actually the largest one. So there you go. So let's go to the next one of my favorite topics, but this is like, it's so obvious that people actually overlook it. The colors you use in your game are vital to your success. So your lead artist who does your style book and your art and graphics is one of the key factors if you're having success or not. So I did a little bit research for you here. This is a chart right from the internet. The top charts usually use a bright color space and an easy to understand graphic style. And the bright color space, if you make a statistic about the top games being sold, these are the most used colors in this game. Just these 5. And you see immediately, the Clash of Clans colors are in there, the Heyday colors, all these successful, even Candy Crush colors are in there. So they're all using the same color space. Here's the thing, if you now copy this color space and use it for your game, that doesn't mean you're successful. That only means that you look like all the other games. And if you look like all the other games, you don't look distinctive, you don't look special, meaning that people won't download you because they just say, oh, this looks like Candy Crush, I played that. Or this looks like Clash of Clans, I played that. If you want to be unique, you have to find your graphic style, which follows the bright graphics rule, but which have to have a unique graphic style, and just that can be a success by its own. And what that means is that, well, the other way around. If you look through the charts of your country, in the top 20, top 30, wherever, try to find the first game which used dark graphics in the top grossing charts. You won't find any. So my recommendation about the color space is, don't do dark games yet. There will be a time when dark games will sell well. Well, 1.8 billion people are being educated by all the game mechanics we need to actually get to them with dark games. But at the moment, you should not do dark games. And there are some really odd settings that don't sell. And that's another topic which I'm coming about in a second. Now, these graphics, the cute graphic style, right? It's so common in so many games that every character has like these big eyes because it addresses just the whole audience, if possible, worldwide. It's very easy with this style to talk to the masses, and it's compatible with most of the Earth population. Because that's the problem, right? We have 1.8 billion potential customers out there, but they're living all over the world. They're living in the US, in Europe, in Asia, South Africa, wherever you want to head with your game. And you have to find a graphic style which is compatible with all of them. Just that is very difficult. Because let's face it, right? Asians are educated with a different graphic style from kids to adults than Europeans than Americans. You can just see it. What's the favorite car color in these countries, right? There's a country where white is actually the most prominent color. And in Europe it was silver and black for a while. And you see that just the color and the imaging, how they're raised when they were born is very different. And to have a graphic style which is compatible with all of them is very, very difficult to find. And this is the reason why most people use that, because this is the only one they can think of which works worldwide. But there are many, many more. You can research that, but cute graphics sell well in most parts of this area. And if your art director is not testing his graphic style against the major regions of this planet, he's not doing a good job. Just because it looks nice in your eyes doesn't mean it will sell well in most of the territories on this world. And this is like one of the reminders, right? There are always exceptions to the rule. Whenever I tell these rules to my clients say, yeah, but this game actually does it totally different, and they're really, really good. And I always tell them, listen, this is the exception. If you're following the exception, you're doing things wrong. I can tell you one exception, Candy Crush. Candy Crush is one of the biggest games on this planet, right? But Candy Crush is an exception. It's an exception because it doesn't come from mobile. It actually came from Facebook, from a very different environment. And it was ported from Facebook to mobile and had tremendous success because they were on mobile really, really early. And really early means that they don't have to follow all the rules we now have in the App Store to be successful. So Candy Crush is an exception. And whoever makes a casual game, specifically a match 3 game, feels that, because most match 3 games fail utterly. Most of them actually do. Because, you make a match 3 game, it looks like Candy Crush, and people say, nah, I don't like Candy Crush, or I played the Candy Crush. So you have a really hard time to compete against that. So, try to identify exceptions and don't follow these. Now, user acquisition, another favorite topic, specifically the marketeers here, right? Who's from marketing here? Selling users and stuff? A lot of people, yeah. User acquisition is really expensive. Everybody's complaining about it, right? And there are reasons for that, of course. So, but here's the thing, right? There's a solution to your problem. User acquisition only gives you a fraction of the users in the first year after you launch your app. And this is something which is true since like 4 or 5 years, but most people have forgotten about it, and I don't know why. So you get roughly 20% through App Store features. That numbers vary, and it's actually dropping because they're redesigning the App Store and stuff, but roughly 20% from features. Can you control the features that Apple or Google features you? No, you can't. So you cannot rely on it, right? So the rest, 30%, is from user acquisition in the first year. Can you control user acquisition? Yes, you can. Now, 50% of your downloads is actually word of mouth. It's virality, K-factor, however you want to name it. Can you control that? At least as marketing? No, you can't. That's the reason why most companies shoot all their money into user acquisition, because it's the only channel they can control. But if you're spending all your money in just 30% of your potential and forget 70% of the rest, you're doing a big mistake, specifically word of mouth. Word of mouth is very, very powerful. It's so powerful that it's much more worth than any user acquired via traditional marketing. Why is that? If I recommend a game to someone, he's going to download it and test it seriously because Teut said this is a good game. This is far more worth. It's a trusted source. And this is far more worth than any paid advertising. But how can you actually push that? It's not that hard to do. The problem we have in user acquisition, we caused that problem by ourselves. It's not a problem of the market, it's not a problem of the development, nothing, no. It's a problem because the top companies in this world acquiring users for games are overspending in marketing. There was a time when we measured the ARPU, which is the average revenue we do per user, and the marketing the cost per user should never exceed that ARPU. That was our rule. Like if we made $1 per user, we spent like 70, 80 cents on user acquisition, so we had like 20 cents profit. That's how we operated 2009. Now times changed. Actually, they overspend. What they now do is that they take the lifetime value of a user, which is how much money on average they spent the whole life of their life in the game itself, and they take that and the K-factor. The K-factor is how many users, if I acquire one user, how many users is he getting along with him, like family members, recommendations, etc. Let's say that's 3. So every user we acquire, there are 3 other users coming in. So there are 4 users coming. So what King does is they're spending 3 times the lifetime value of a user on marketing so that they have 1 left for profit. That's how much money they spend on marketing. They overspend. And guess who's suffering? All of us. Because we cannot pay this money. We can't. And if you add the top 3 or 4 revenue competitors in the App Store, just them, $1 to $2 billion user acquisition per quarter they're spending. It's a crazy amount of money. And if you try to compete with these, good luck. You have to find channels they're not in. And if you have channels they're not in, it means that either the channels are crap or they're so niche that it might just count for you. So user acquisition will be very difficult for you and it will continue to be difficult. So go to word of mouth or do it totally different. There's a company founded by a friend of mine in Finland, And they haven't spent a single dollar on user acquisition. They don't. And they have 25 million downloads. How did they do that? They only work with YouTube channels. That's all they do. They made YouTubers fans of their game. And when that happened, they found out that some of the superstars in the world are actually fans of their game as well. And they simply asked them, listen, can we cooperate? Like that you tweet about our game, how cool you think? And yes, you know, there's one superstar, I forgot her name, Adriana Grande, yeah, 38 million followers on Twitter. And she just said, I just love this game, you know, and Best Fiends. And she just posted a link, that's all. You know, you can guess what the downloads did at that point. They didn't pay her money. She's just a fan. So you can guess, you know, what this company does. You can be as creative as well, you know, hire superstars. And many people are doing this now. Kate Upton, Megan Fox, and God knows who they're hiring to actually featuring the game. So what helps word of mouth in terms of the game itself? So the first thing and the first mistake you do is the icon. The icon is so vital and it's so basic to do. Usually what happens in your company is that some artist coming to you shows you 10 icons and say, which one do you like better? And you say, oh, this is nice. Okay, we use this. This is how the icon is going to be picked in over half of my clients. And this is utterly, totally wrong. I had a client with a really bad icon, and I taught him how to do the process properly. So I said, take 3 different artists from your company. They all should do 3 different icons for your game. And they did. We posted all these icons on Facebook as advertising with the same budget and the same target audience. And we measured the click-through rate of this. And all the icon did, it lead to the games page. That's all it did. And the icons with most of the click-through, the top 3, we tuned, we brightened, we a little bit changed, and we did the same click-through test again. And the top click-through icon from that we used for the game itself. Because they were already live, you know, it was a little bit too late, but nevertheless, we supplied a patch, an update, and the only thing we did, we changed the icon. The downloads doubled. Just because we changed the icon. The icon is as important as your game itself. Why is that? Imagine tonight is party, right? Which party is tonight? The official calculator, is that the Google one? Yeah. Thank you, Google. Good party. We'll see. Lots of drink. So let's see. After the 5th beer, you meet me at a bar. Okay, you said, hey Teut, good talk. Thank you for that. I learned so much. And I said, yeah. Can you recommend me a really cool game with that graphics you talked about? I can, yeah, here, look at this. So I show you a game, you know. You see the icon and the name of the game. I click on it and you see the game. The next morning, with a hangover, you try to remember which game I actually recommended to you. So what's in your brain? The icon and maybe a fraction of the name. So this is how important an icon is, you know. After hangover, you should still be able to find the icon by searching the App Store. So you search the App Store and you say, it was something with like War Summoner, I don't know what that was. Oh, that's the icon, I remember, and you click it. This is how important the icon is. And this is important how important the name itself is as well. The name should be compatible with the world language. That's a challenge by itself. Try to find a name for your game which works in America, in Europe, in Germany, in Finland, Hungary, China, South Korea. Try to find a name which works out. Really, really hard. But you know, some really good examples. Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans was such a good name that many people cloned parts of that. So there's Clash of something, Clash of Kings, Clash of Empires, Clash of whatever. It's all already taken. Or of Clans as well. You know, War of Clans, Empire of Clans. You know, all these titles are already taken. That's how powerful that name was, because people actually just cloned the name itself. Really bad names is kind of something which actually gets truncated because it's too long. You should learn the rules about the letters, but this is really basic stuff. One of my favorite strategy games in the App Store, which is actually a dark game, sorry for that, it's an indie game called Rimmed Capsule. I talked to that guy and I said, listen, if you would change your name, you would actually double your downloads. You know, Rimmed Capsule, no one can actually spell that name. And he said, I don't care, I'm indie. Oh well. So anyway, so you should take a look at length of title, the distinguish from your competition, that search and brand is in there, and search is very, very important. You learn how search works at the App Store. Search in the App Store does not only look for the name, it also looks for information inside your game. Okay, they have been indexed and they're experts about, you know, SEO and SEM on the App Store itself, who knows how that works. So learn from them, because that's really, really important. And of course, your language has to work worldwide. So word of mouth, advanced tools. You have to plug in social networks in your game. You have to. If a client comes to me with a game and there's not even Facebook in there, I said, why is there no Facebook? Nah, we don't import friends from Facebook. I said, then you fail. Most people play with someone they know in real life. Okay, I'll repeat that because it's so important. Most people play games with someone they know in real life. With a partner, with a good friend, whoever, right? Meaning they should be allowed to play together in this game. And the only way to do that is that they add each other to the friends list in co-op or whatever they do in the game itself, like asynchronous co-op modes. And the easiest way to do that is Facebook Connect, at least in the territories where Facebook is big. If you go to Russia, they don't know Facebook. They have vkontakte.ru. They have their own social network. In Asia, Facebook, no. You have your own social networks as well. That's how you have to handle social media, right? You have to have plugins for all the major territories. The QQ, the South Korean one, Facebook, vkontakte.ru, all this kind of stuff you should plug into your game. Meaning that you need an SDK kind of, how do you call that? Mechanic where you can plug in social networks just by itself. And you have to add that. That's really important. The same is like chat. It's the biggest secret I can give you. If your retention sucks in your game, just add chat. It doesn't matter that the chat has any reliance to a game or not. Just add chat in your game. Your retention will go up. That's how powerful chat is. Just chat and things go up. Imagine if you would implement chat in a game where chat actually has a role in the game itself. Boom, you go up, This is like all the social stuff you need. Friends list, chat, in-game mail, all this stuff have a reason to be there. And here's a big secret. All this, what I'm telling you now, I told the industry already 10 years ago. 1997? That's nearly 20 years ago. I'm sorry, I told that 20 years ago. Why is that? Because all these games, which we talk about now, are moving with lightning speed through the history of all the games we already did before. What we see now in the App Store happened 10 years ago in our industry, already on another platform. So what's happening now is that most of the games we know are moving MMO, massive multiplayer online. Even the casual games do that. And what that means is that they are stealing and adapting the mechanics MMOs have. And that includes chat. MMOs are big social environments. And even casual games will move there. RPGs are already there. If you look at Clash Royale, it has a very easy to play core game loop. You fight each other. And then you have the collectible card game there. But what's the most important thing in there as well? It's clan and chat. And live esports TV. All of this is coming from MMORPGs or free-to-play MMOs, like League of Legends. That's where it's come from. So, learn from these games and you know what's coming next year by just looking at the history of the games on other platforms. So, genre and setting, another really topic I love. When I ask a client about a new game, what genre and setting is this? And he says, oh, it's a RTS based in underwater. And I said, it will fail. And he's like, why do you say this? I said, well, underwater games never sold. In the 30 years I'm in this industry, underwater games never sold. Submarine simulations aside, right? Name me one game which plays underwater, which is actually a major hit. Hands up if anyone knows one. Which one? Echo the Dolphin. You're cheating. Yeah, you cannot have an Echo the Dolphin, but that's right, yeah, animal games, yeah. But okay, it's one, right, out of an expert audience of like 100 or 200 here. I can name another one, it's called Bioshock. But they're cheating as well because they just placed the building underwater. But there's just two, right? Two. If I say, name me a top 10 game played in World War II, lots of hands might pop up, or in any other. Name me one top 10 game in a Western setting, like cowboys and Indians and things. Yes, Red Dead Redemption is the big exception. You remember? Exceptions to the rule. Red Dead Redemption, I bet if Red Dead Redemption had another setting, it would be as successful. So it's the only Western game I can. There was a shooter I think was really successful as well, but I forgot about that. But nevertheless, Western games never sold really well in the history or in their underwater games as well. Space games, science fiction games. It's unfortunately still niche. Fantasy was niche until Lord of the Rings came and educated the world was what an elf is. My mom now knows what an elf is, meaning that fantasy actually is now mass media. Science fiction is not. If I ask my mom, listen, do you know what a laser sword is? She said, what? Spaceships. Nah, I don't know. This is crap stuff. I don't read this. I said, no, not read. Like, watch Star Wars. Ah, that's the movie you went in with Dad, right? I said, yeah. So this is like science fiction. It's still niche. So Star Wars might change that. But if you do a sci-fi game, you have several problems. First, sci-fi, unfortunately, is still niche. Second, it's usually in space, and space is dark. So dark games don't sell, space is niche, meaning that you might have a problem. Look at the top 50 of your charts and try to find a sci-fi game. It's really hard. Unfortunately, I love science fiction, but science fiction is not there yet, but might. Soonish. So the only guidance I can give is that settings usually work when a human being feels well in that environment. That's one of the reasons why underwater is something people don't like, because everybody had a near suffocating experience underwater at some point. You know, you try to dive 25 meters in your pool, and at some point, no, my air is like tight, and you're going up. So you know what the feeling is if you don't have air. That's the reason why underwater is not a nice setting for you. Space is the same thing, but you can learn a lot about how Star Wars actually made space sexy, because most of the action is actually happening inside the spaceships or on the planet, not in space itself, because people don't like the space, claustrophobia and so on. So just research your setting, please, because that might hurt your sales as well. Here's one of the most important things I can tell you, because that's how I predict the success of clients' games. So when you do an action game, you will target a younger audience, because old people like me, I'm 51, I cannot play action games anymore. I'm too slow. And on a phone, it's like, see, eyesight problems. Yeah, you're laughing. You have the same problem. You have glasses as well. You know, it's really hard for older people to play these games. We don't play them. So action games means your core audience will be between 17 and 26. Just take it for granted. If you make strategy games, you're targeting an older audience. I love strategy games. You do too. See? We old farts, you know, we play strategy games. So if you say, oh, we have a strategy game, and you have the graphics just targeting young audiences, you're making a mistake. It's so easy to read, right? If you do a PvP game, PvP means player versus player, like Clash Royale, you're targeting 90% male audience. Females usually don't play PvP, okay? Meaning, if you do a PvP only game, you just halved your potential. 1.8 billion players, PvP, bam, 900 million. Just saying, okay? If you do a casual game, most of your audience will be female. If you do a dark game, you will be core and you will be niche. Very small target audience, mostly male audience, core players coming from other formats like console and PC. If you do a bright game, actually everyone will and can try your game. If you want to target the US is dominated by strategy games and casino, but we don't count casino. So, and the reason why the US is mainly strategy games is very simple. It has to do with age. The US kind of was a pioneer in the game industry. They're 5 years ahead in terms of education and target age. So just by demographics, the average age of a gamer in the US is 5 years older than in Europe. And Europe is on average 5 years older, the demographics, than in Asia. So if you go to the US mainly as your main target market, you know, you have on average a 5-year older player. If you go to Asia, you have to be competitive. Here's the funny thing. If you measure all the players in America, which is like 50% of the App Store revenue for at least us Western markets, 60% of these players don't like PvP. They don't like PvP. Okay, I can repeat that, right? Over 60% of the players in the US don't like PvP because they are older, okay? Now in Asia, it's the other way around. In Asia, they love PvP because when they were engaging the first games they have, they were all competitive. They entered internet cafes and they saw these shooters and MMORPGs and they were all PvPing about, territories and so on. So, guess what? If you do a game, let's say we do a strategy game, okay? So, hey, US, good market for us, and we don't put PvP in, we won't be successful in Asia. Then we say, to be successful in Asia, we have to put in PvP. So let's do a PvP strategy game. So suddenly you lost America because PvP means, younger audience and only 40% reach, but in Asia you have a higher reach. Do you see how complex it is to make certain decisions in your game to be successful worldwide? It's very hard. It's very hard to do the right decisions in the beginning of your project that you actually target the world, because this here is contradicting itself depending on the territory. That's the reason why most mistakes you will do in the beginning. So when a client comes to me and he says, we have a card battler PvP in a fantasy setting, I can roughly tell him the market size, and from that market size I can tell him if he's successful or not. That's a problem on this. So be careful with your decisions in the beginning, or don't rush into production with a game only because you have that really cool idea about, let's do a League of Legends on mobile. You know why League of Legends on mobile didn't work? You should know now. Okay? It's PvP, it's action-based, and it's not working on a casual internet connection. So lots of other problems. Yeah. So here, really important, from EDAR. I love EDAR stuff. So you can see the gender split by mobile genre here in the US. That's beautiful, and that actually exists for most of the markets. So if you say we are doing a racing game, you know that 30% female only play that, the rest is male. Sports, shooters, is all male stuff. Matching puzzle, simulation, casino, chance, and brain puzzle, physics puzzle, it's all female stuff. So just from that, you can have a gender split. Why this is important is very simple, because gender means certain play styles have to be supported, right? Okay, actually the slide and the video will be available on the Casual Connect site, so you don't need to photograph everything, but it will be made available to download. So, the curse of the charts and KPIs. We all heard about the KPIs in the net, right? What is the average conversion rate in the App Store? With conversion rate, I mean how high of a percentage are people who are paying for your game? We all heard the numbers. Anyone? What's the number you heard? Do you have any number in mind how many people pay for an app in the... Yeah, you. 1%? 1%. Okay, anyone higher or lower? 1 to 5. 2 to 3. Okay. See, if you Google the internet, you will actually see that anything 1%, 2 to 3%, all this is the average conversion rate of players paying, and this is right, is correct. But here's the problem: they say average. Average is the worst thing you can do to proper data. Average means they messed up the spikes. This is the Abercrombie quartet. It's a mathematical thing, right? So there are 4 charts on the left which are very different. It's obvious, right? The data points on the left are totally radically different. Here's the thing: the averages of all these 4 are identical. So to the right, the mean, the simple variance, whatever you have, are all identical between all 4. This is what average does to your data. It messes things up. What is the highest conversion rate of a game in the App Store? Free to play. Anyone know? 50%. Which game has 50% conversion rate in the App Store? Half of their players are paying. Does anyone know that game? Age of War? No, they have far less. They're whale hunting. Yeah. But no, Puzzle and Dragons. Puzzle and Dragons in Japan, 50% conversion rate. See, there's another trick I just did to you. You know, if someone tells you his conversion rate, you can ask him, which territory, which platform, because you can kind of cherry pick, right? But nevertheless, the Puzzle and Dragons, 90% of the players are all in Japan, and half of them are paying. This is like amazing, 50%. How high is the conversion rate of Clash of Clans? Does anyone know? Roughly. Below 5%? Okay, hands up. Who thinks Clash of Clans, one of the most revenue-generating game on Earth, is less than 5%? Hands up. Okay, who thinks more than 5%? Okay, who thinks more than 10%? 1, 2, okay. The conversion rate of Clash of Clans is far beyond 10%. Far beyond. Here's the trick. If you take a game like Candy Crush, they have 500 million players, like a stack of 500 million people here. And the number of paying people is very, very small. But because very, very small from 500 people is still a huge number, they're still making billions a year. Now the trick is, if you have less users, but a higher conversion rate, you're doing actually the same amount of money. Think about certain data. If someone says, oh, my daily active users are 1 million, you have to ask him first what his definition on daily active users is, because it might be different. Be careful with data out there. Don't do dark games. Easiest advice, right? Don't do dark games. They don't sell. Very easy, yet. It might happen at some point, but at the moment, they don't. Target App Store gaps. App Store gaps is easy to find, right? You just take all the top games and make nice little charts, you know, of genre wheels and everything, and ask yourself, which genre was really successful on another platform but hasn't been done yet on mobile? And do that. And you will be much more successful because you're the only one doing it. Just by that, you will be successful, right? Be unique in genre, game, and setting. Unique means stand out. There's someone walking here on the hall called Matt Hall. He did Pac-Man 256 and he did Crossy Road. With Crossy Road, he invented the graphic style, right? And everybody is now cloning his graphic style. But he was first. He basically invented that thing. The unique look. Everybody knew immediately when he saw the graphic style, oh, this is Crossy Road. Of course he was successful, right? In this kind of positioning and targeting, he's a genius. Talk to him. He's somewhere here in the in these rooms. So, be unique there. What? What do you mean he couldn't make it? We have a panel at 11:30. He couldn't make it. He's busy making his next hit. Yeah, but you can research his stuff in the internet anyway. So, I'm done. Thank you for listening, and I'm open to questions, I guess. Do we have time? Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Thank you for listening.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. It was fascinating. I've been speaking to people recently about sort of the evolution of the genres on mobile gaming, and one of the things I've noticed is that there seems to be really few amount of trading games on mobile, and I wanted to ask you sort of what your opinion is, because the people I've spoken to seem to think it's not easy to monetize and there's no sort of future.
Which kind of game?
Trading. So
trading.
Like pet trading, card trading, kind of like think Neopets.
The problem is not that people don't want to play it, the problem is more on a technical side. If people trade stuff, let's say you have 1 million users trading stuff back and forth, it's a major headache on the server side. It's a major headache in terms of security and cheating and hacking and all that. There are all sorts of problems people try to circumvent in order to do that. That's the reason why they don't do trading. Trading is the standard stuff in most PC MMORPGs. You can trade in World of Warcraft everywhere. But if you take a look at the similar genre on mobile, they don't allow trading at all. They don't allow gifting stuff to other people at all because of the exploits of hack clients, of the server-side problems, of many things. But I think at some point someone will find a solution which actually works because people love to trade. I love to trade, I'm basically a trader type of gamer. I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah, because things have to be adapted to mobile, and this adaptation, the right step to make it right, is missing for that. Yeah. See, there might be a gap. The question was, is there a gap for sandbox games? Yes, 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 yes. Big gap, big thing out there. Sandbox is so sexy because you don't need to do content. Sandbox is so sexy because people are doing content for you. Sandbox is so sexy because, there has to be some sort of stuff in there because people who are new to gaming which are on mobile, they have no idea what to do in a sandbox game. They are sitting in a sandbox and say like, okay, I have no idea what to do. So you have to give them some guidance to do certain things, right? But open up to a sandbox at some point, they will love it.
What do you think about the entry of the VR gaming?
If you read my blog, you will see that I think in the next 5 years, there's no business model for VR in the gaming industry. I don't think no one will make money. All the money from investors will be wasted. In the gaming industry, we still need time to make games work on VR. It's, read my blog for some little detailed advice, but this is just me. I'm a rant about VR. I don't believe in VR, but this is just my personal opinion, okay? Okay. Thank you very much. See you soon.